Today is January 5th, 2023. Therefore, we are about a week and a half into PA's late season. Although if you look around, you wouldn't know it. It's a really nice day out, about 50 degrees. It's really the first decent day since I got back from Christmas, but for many, the late season in PA is an opportunity to hunt with a flintlock. In fact, it's a tradition. But for me, it's an opportunity to get back out one last time with the bow. And having spent an entire archery season and now heading back out again here for the late season with this bow, I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to do a review of the Darton Spectra E bow. Now, in all honesty, I could stand in the yard, shoot a bunch of shots, tell you it shoots a good group, and while that would be true, with any decent bow you buy in 2023, you'll be able to achieve a decent group. So what I thought I'd do instead, especially given this is the first decent day of the late season, is head out here, climb into the stand, talk about some of the things that actually relate to getting a good group with this bow, and take you inside a couple hunting situations from this past season. Now, it may sound insane to review a bow from the stand, and maybe it is, but I've got three main points here, and then we're going to get into scenarios from this past season. So the first thing I really like about this bow is its draw cycle. It's very smooth and consistent throughout. Some bows have like a very front-loaded draw cycle where all the heavy lifting is in the first 1/3 of the draw, and the rest is just let off, and that can be nice for some, but for me, I had a shoulder injury in 2019. For 2 years using bows with those front-loaded draw cycles, every single shot I took, including ones at deer, were painful. This bow with that smooth, consistent draw, I don't have that problem. And while that may only be relevant for someone like me with that type of injury, where it's relevant to everyone is your let up. If you were to draw back on a deer and it steps behind some brush, won't step out, and you gotta let up your draw, with that smooth, consistent draw, you know, just based on what your muscle's holding back, how much pressure to leave as you're going up, and there's no shock of suddenly the bow having that extra weight to hold back that you're not ready for. And the lower weight, the easier that'll be. Now, the next one doesn't require any demonstration. It's just simply the price. For $1,300 in 2023 or in 2022 when I got the bow, that is a really good price for a bow that performs at this level. You can spend so much more money on a bow, and in my opinion, things like your arrow rest, maybe your sight, your arrow setup, those types of things are a place to maybe spend a little bit of that extra money. I really like, for the price, how this bow performs. Now, one important thing here, this bow doesn't come with a grip, so what this is actually golf club tape. It's like $10 on Amazon. I really like it. I find that it kind of removes a little bit of that cold feeling, gives you a little bit of something to grip onto. So if you are looking into this bow, there are custom grips that can be made, a little more expensive than that. The golf club tape, works really well. And the very last thing is speed, or more specifically, speed for the price. As you pay more for bows, oftentimes the FPS goes up, but I'm not even going to really get into the listed FPS. I'll put it on screen, but everything affects that. Your arrow setup, your draw length, your draw weight, all those things affect the speed at which your arrow is traveling. But an arrow that's traveling fast has the potential for more penetration depending on your arrow setup, and of course has less drop over distance. Plus, of course, it's a little easier to set in a bow that has less drop, and of course the speed impacts that. This is where we get into hunting scenarios from this past season, as my first opportunity to take a buck on film with a bow was a full pass-through thanks to this bow and the speed at which the arrow was traveling.
This hunt features a little bit of everything, including some further points I didn't mention earlier. It's the morning of October 11th, 2022 in West Virginia. I look over my shoulder and catch a glimpse of a shooter buck walking down the path to my right. Little did I know that every positive feature of my bow would be on full display the very first time I let an arrow fly towards a deer. Immediately, two important factors come into play. Firstly, the smooth draw cycle. As I come to full draw, my arm catches my harness strap and I was unable to reach full draw. Fortunately, I could simply maintain that pressure and lean forward to find room to reach the full draw. I can't say for certain how much this helped me, but I do know that muscle memory of thousands of practice shots, knowing the draw cycle, and being able to control it was huge in the moment. That event triggered a chain reaction that leads right into the next factor. Because of my additional movement, the buck caught me, and we ended up in a stare down for just over 30 seconds. Without a doubt, the let-off of 85% allowed me to hold it full draw and stay steady enough to make the shot when the buck finally stepped out. The shot was a clean pass-through, but not only that. The arrow was so far in the brush behind the buck that I was unable to find it on my own. After processing the deer, Will and I returned for a recovery mission, and we were able to locate the arrow. Unfortunately, we left the cameras with the deer, so no footage exists of actually finding it. One last thing. On this hunt, the noise level of the shot wouldn't have been that relevant. At 20 yards, the buck probably would have the same reaction to the shot regardless. However, I do believe this to be the quietest bow I own. We'll take a closer look at that now. As I mentioned, the Darton Spectra E32 is comparatively quiet. However, I didn't include that in my 3 points from the stand. Why? Because it's really difficult to demonstrate that on camera. Shooting a bow close to a microphone always makes it sound loud, and it's also difficult to properly compare. Other bows I own are set to different draw weights, and therefore they don't make for the most fair comparison. Despite that, I'll shoot 3 other bows and compare using a sound meter. Also, just a note, I won't name the bows other than the Darton for the sake of not starting debates in the comments about other bows. As for how to know which is the quietest, it's very simple. Just watch the max reading on the sound meter for each. First up, the Darton, which comes in at 76.5 decibels. Next up, bow number 2, coming in at 84.5 decibels. Also, don't mind the miss, I removed the sight from this one a while back and misjudged pretty badly. On to bow number 3. This one is the second quietest thus far at 80.3 decibels. But finally, bow number 4. Coming in at 81.7 decibels, this makes the Darton Spectra E32 the quietest bow I own by at least 4 decibels. Is that a lot? Some might say so, but ultimately I'll leave that determination to you. I will readily admit, I am probably at least a little biased towards this bow, because it was the one in my hand on the day I took my first buck with a bow on film. Also keep in mind, this bow was graciously provided to me by Darton, and I greatly appreciate that. However, as we move into the final stage of the video, pros and cons, I've done my best to be as objective as possible to allow you to make an informed decision if you're looking to get a new bow. We've already generally explored the pros for this bow, but in order to summarize, I'll quickly list them first. The price. I'll say this out loud in case you missed it earlier on, I misspoke regarding the price of the bow, and it's considerably cheaper than I mentioned. It's listed at $1,050 on Darton's website, and performs at levels right up there with bows that can cost several $100s more and beyond. The draw cycle. A smooth, consistent cycle that made this particular bow more accessible to me personally, as well as making it possible to let up your draw with one smooth motion. The speed and quietness, especially for the price. A bow that can achieve top level feet per second speeds on top of being quiet. About as good a combo as you can ask for. The let-off. 85% let-off allows you to hold at full draw for extended periods of time. And finally, an honorable mention pro that some of you will consider pro and some will not, it can be ordered online. Some people like to shoot a bunch of bows before they make a decision. If you're not one of those people, being able to get one online might be for you. Now for the cons. The lack of the grip coming with the bow. I've heard several things including zero torque being cited as the reason for a bow to not have a grip, but for me, I definitely prefer one, and I do have to consider that a con with the Darton Spectra E32. There are a variety of camo and color patterns available for this bow, but for me, none really fit my preference, which is why I chose black. Some will consider that irrelevant, some certainly care about exactly how their bow looks. It is also a little on the heavy side at 4.9 pounds. Not exactly beyond the range of most bow weights, but that said, I do prefer something a touch lighter ideally. And this is getting super picky because I have very little negative to say about the bow, but I did notice within days of getting it, and gentle use at best, there was a chip at the arrow rest. Not sure exactly what happened, but it's the only time it happened, and I can promise much less gentle use occurred throughout the season. There is absolutely nothing bad I can say though about how this bow shoots. Every time I've shot it, it has reached or exceeded expectations. And on that note, that is going to do it for this video. If you have any questions about the bow, let me know in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Oh, and my hunt? Yeah, I didn't see anything. To be expected, I suppose. Anyway, thank you for watching, thank you to Darton for the opportunity, and I'll see you next time.